Hello, hello. Happy Friday. What's going on, my friends? How you doing today? Maybe an unhappy Friday. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm kind of pissed off, and that's not a normal state of mind for me with regards to the club itself and where things are at. I obviously tend to see things pretty positively in the overall direction of where we're going, but I've got a bit of a bone to pick with some people here on this because I think this is I think what we're hearing right now is absolutely unacceptable. I'm pretty forgiving in terms of the standards. I'm pretty forgiving in terms of where we're trying to go. I'm pretty forgiving in terms of understanding the situation around the club right now, and for quite a long time. And on the macro scheme of things, I understand a lot. On the macro side of things, on the long-term view, on the big picture, on all of that, I think I understand a lot of what's going on here. That being said, that doesn't make, I think, what's going on right now, or what appears to be at least going on right now, acceptable at all. In fact, I think it's incompetence is what it is. I don't think it's bad intention or anything like that. I think it's incompetence when I look at it. And I'll explain my view here, all right? At least at the start. And then we'll turn around and look at a little bit more of the positives of things, because I do have some info to share, and I also do want to state that Sky, you didn't have any exclusive on any of that. I've been talking about us continuing to check into Baleba within the last few days at least 10 times, as well as linking us to Buwadi and things like that. That's not an exclusive. That's I've been talking about that for days, that we keep pushing on Baleba in January, and the problem is the response from Brighton hasn't been good, but we'll talk about that. But it's not about necessarily even Ruben Amorim's comments. Here's my point, okay? It's January 2nd. Now, you can say, yes, it's January 2nd in the window. There's lots of time left. And there is. And there's lots of times for things to change. There's lots of times for things to improve. There's lots of time for things to happen. West Ham are on their second or third signing because they're desperate. Now, look, not claiming West Ham always make good decisions. They sign a lot of bad players. But it sort of doesn't matter. There are many. Palace have already signed Brennan Johnson. That's competition for us in the table. Palace, 3 points behind us, have just strengthened with a goal scorer. 3 points behind us. That's bad. That's competition. That's who we are fighting for those European places in. Brennan Johnson, if he brings 5 goals to the table for Palace in the second half of this season, could be the difference in those 3 points between us and Palace and knock us out of Europe. It's very realistic. It's very plausible that we're competing with clubs around us, not just with ourselves, not just with now, not just with the future. We are competing with the other people in the league. You can't stand still during these windows because time marches forward. Other clubs march forward. Other people add things up, other people grow. And I don't think it's about Ineos that, however, it's very easy to make it about Ineos. We as United fans, because we've dealt with the Glazers for such a long time, point absolutely everything to the ownership. And obviously it matters. Ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, they are responsible for everything that goes on, right? Ultimately, they are responsible for where the club goes. But at the same time, what you don't want owners to do, because this is what Joel did, this is what Ed Woodward did, they are not football people. You want them handling the financials of the club. You want them handling the commercial aspects of the club. You want them dealing with all of that. And you want them staying out of the football until it is absolutely necessary. On the grand scheme of things, their job is to look and see if the people in the job are doing a good job, if things are headed in the right direction, if we're going the right way, to keep abreast of it, to put pressure on it. You don't want Sir Jim putting his nose into recruitment in specific because he doesn't know anything more than you or I in terms of deciding on players. The same as Joel, the same on Ed, and that's why we made so many bad decisions, because it was the wrong people making those decisions. Just to cut out some of the nonsense already, guys, less than a week ago, the ownership put $65 million forward with Amorim in situ for Semenyo, and we were looking to progress a deal. That's not the problem. The money is there, and the ability to spend for the manager is there. The speculation that it's because the manager's washed and that they want him gone doesn't make any sense. It doesn't hold water. Nor does it make sense or anything like that, that they now don't want, because they're still calling and they're still checking in on players. That's not the problem right now. But here's where I have an issue, all right? This is what Ruben Amorim said today. And this is the issue that I've got, okay? Ruben Amorim says that Manchester United are not holding any conversations related to signing or selling players in the transfer window. Amorim added that none of his fringe players have approached him and asked to leave this month. Now, you can read that one of two ways, okay? You can read that one of two ways. You can see that in a couple different ways. He said a few days ago he's not going to go to the club and ask for players because they already know what he needs. They've already have this long-term view. They already have this long-term plan. They already know what they're trying to do. So it's not about him going and asking for players. They're in coordination constantly. You could read his answer as that in there. But I'm not sure that's what he said or not. You can read it that way, that he's not going to the board and having conversations saying, I need more players. He's letting them do their job and he's doing his job. Now, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? Because he's not saying, that doesn't necessarily say that we're not checking in on players. We've obviously been checking in on players. We've obviously been talking to players. We've obviously been doing that, which we'll discuss here in a moment. The money is there to spend. But here's my problem. Antoine Semenyo cannot be the only player in world football who you can sign in January that would improve this football club. How many midfielders do we have? And if you believe that we can go into next year and just sign one, you're smoking crack, honestly. And I would have huge question marks for anybody in the management and team right now who's sitting there going, well, maybe we'll re-sign Casemiro and Ugarte, and then we have two defensive midfielders. We only need to sign one more player, and then maybe Kabi or Bruno go. You are high, man. That is terrible. That if you're thinking that is incompetence. You got to look at what we just witnessed. Look at what we all know. We need 3 to 4 midfielders this summer. Bruno's talking about leaving. He's getting injured. Kabi Mainu can't get on the pitch and has this dispute with the club, and you have all these problems right now. You can't say there's nobody beyond Baleba, Anderson, and Wharton that could come in. But let's go beyond that for a moment. I want to know why we hired Vivel. What is his job? What's he here for? To sell us Leipzig players? Is that it? Is that the job? Is that his job? Is that his only input? I'm being overly critical here, but I mean that. What's Vivel for? To sell us Leipzig players? That's bullshit. The whole job of rearranging the scouting department, overseeing and looking at it, is because you need to be able to come up with options that are not obvious. Look at who we've signed. Cunha, Mbumo, Šeško. Who are we looking at? Baleba, Anderson, Wharton. I could have given you that list. And I don't make $5 million a year to be given options for United. And not only that, United have been watching Šeško for 5 years before Vivel came in. We've got the same hair. Just put me in the job. I'll give you the same list of players if that's who we're signing. I'll give you those. I'm upset with that. That bothers me. That does bother me because you can't approach it and say there's no value in the market. We can't. That's your job. That's your job. That's why you're hired, to bring players to the table that are options that are obtainable beyond the obvious that are going to help make this work. And that is not competence to me. And I will call it out when I see it, because that is unacceptable to me. That can't happen. You've been hired to do the job. What for? What for? When are you going to step up and provide us with that? We knew the targets at the end of last summer. So what's the scouting that's going on? And look, there's names on our list and there's things like that. But also have to understand that scouting and looking at players and what scouts and all of that do is a lot more than you might think. Okay? The scouting department is often responsible.
Watch the blood pressure, James.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Eyes emoji.
Thanks for that. The scouting department is responsible.
James, agreed.
Let me read this out.
Even if they don't believe in Amorim, not signing squad players is criminal. Delaying Xerxes' sale, why? Sell him and invest in veteran striker, Mateta, Watkins. We need squad midfielders.
100%. 100%. Look. Look. This just so you understand in terms of football and how it works, because some people don't get this, okay? Scouting and what goes into the scouting department side of it is not just watching players on the pitch and saying, oh, that's a good player, let's sign him. The scout's job, as well as the scouting department's job, is very often as well, when scouting, where people don't understand, scouting is not just looking at players. It's not what everybody thinks they can do. I'll just watch someone on TV and scout. Scouts are very often responsible for contacting the players' agencies, finding out their wages, finding out about their contract, finding out about their situation at the club, finding out how much they would cost, finding out whether they'd be available for the move. The scouting department is supposed to provide a lot of detail to the directors.
James, this is a first sign that Ineos are not backing Amorim, and Amorim out brigade is going to win. This decision will cost us the season.
It will, but it's not a sign that Ineos are not backing him. The money is there. The money has been presented. We tried to buy Semenyo a week ago. The money is there. We're checking in on players constantly. The issue is not the intent to sign players. The issue is the execution of the plan within the club right now. And on that front, ownership is responsible on a macro level, but not a micro level. They can't step in and Sir Jim step over everybody and say, hey, do this and that. But I don't know, man. Maybe another trip to Iceland is due. Quit fucking around. We don't have more time. We need to make signings now. We need to add to the club now. It's not about who I want to sign as the owner. It's about putting pressure on the people. That's all Sir Jim's really responsibility and role in this is putting pressure on them. The money has been made available. The ability to sign targets is there. That's not the issue. They need to be able to come to ownership with options and say, we're confident in signing these players with the money. We need a lot more. We're not going to get Anderson and Wharton in summer without getting up the table. There's a real possibility we get knocked down. So you can't go, well, we could just get them. We'll get them in summer. We'll save all our money for two of those guys in summer. We won't get there. That's a massive risk. That is a massive risk, and I think very, very poor foresight on that front. Diomande as a name here, when I speak about this, Diomande's already been signed by Leipzig and is 80 million. Scouting more players who are already at Leipzig isn't why Vivell was in there. Otherwise, we wouldn't have needed him. We could just look at Leipzig and he could have stayed at Leipzig. Where's the guys before they're at Leipzig? Where are the other people in there? Last winter, we signed Dorgu, we signed Heaven, and we tried to make business to get Tell in the door by the end of January. And that was with very limited funds. even if we were to do sort of the equivalent this year, get a young midfielder in terms of like a Dorgu type of profile, a 25, 30 million young midfielder in some other young prospect, in one area that could come through that's on the verge of first team football, I'm fine with that. That's okay. Orozco's not joining till summer, so that's like Diego Leon, who has provided no impact on the season. Not faulting him. He needs time to adjust and make to the league and all of that. But those are not impact now players. That's not understanding how they can help us today until where we're, to where we're going in the future. Right now, I look at it and I go, Vivell is not he was not hired in the role of, like just as an emerging scout anymore. He's been put in position to arrange and organize the entire scouting department. When are we going to have someone brought to the table that we can say, hey, right now, we can get this player who's going to help us? They exist. Every other club is going to be looking to do deals in this window. Every other club around us is going to be looking to add players to the club right now. And many of them are going to be names we haven't heard of. Or not necessarily haven't heard of.
Season he was 8th after 19 games. The club
correct.
went and signed Bruno and Igalo that January and we finished 3rd.
Yep, absolutely.
The investment paid off.
Absolutely. And we earned back all the money we spent on Bruno in 6 months. Not to mention how much that helped us for seasons to come, right? So my concern is that this is a you can pragmatize and conservatize yourself into damnation by being too careful, by being too worried, by being too overthinking it too much because you're not seeing the risk of inaction. I'll tell you what my prediction is now, and I don't think I'm being too dramatic with this. I mean it quite seriously. If we don't sign someone in January, I think we'll finish in 8th to 10th. And I didn't think that before, but when I look at the team right now, and I look at the struggles we're in right now, and I look at the dialogue right now, and I look at the pressure right now that is coming from fans, from media, from everywhere, I see a situation where if they don't sign anyone, the belief within the club...
Haven't you been singing Ineos praises all this time?
What a stupid thing to say. That the noise and the feeling within the club, whether right or wrong, will turn to the idea that management doesn't believe in the manager. And he will lose the dressing room by March, and he will be a lame duck manager. Because if you believe in him and what he's doing, you can't throw him to the dogs. At some point, you have to look at him and go, Jesus Christ, he's being treated unbelievably unfairly. Unbelievably unfairly. You can disagree with me if you want on that, but he is. He's being treated unbelievably unfairly by ownership. If they do not by ownership, but by management, let's say. Ownership, management, whatever. By all of them, if you're not giving him, no matter where you sit on the Amorim train, if they're keeping him in the job, you got to help the guy out a bit. You have to. You have to. You have to give him something. You have to help him. With the pressure that is built up, it sends a bad message if you're not going to do anything for him in January. And at the end of summer,
I've been saying, but the decision optimization around selling and buying looks rudderless. There's no risk or imagination. SJR can't keep stepping in.
Right. I agree with you to a degree there, Jimmy. Right now, sometimes the obvious is good, right? Sometimes the obvious is good.
I agree with you 100%. This is not good.
Sometimes the obvious is good, right? Sometimes doing the basics is what we've needed, what we've been missing for a long time. Doing the basics, signing the obvious players, signing the basic players. Declan Rice was an obvious signing we passed up on. Sometimes that's good. Right now, the obvious isn't available. Now's when you earn your money, right? Because I'm telling you, any idiot in this chat, no offense to you guys, I'm not calling you idiots, might as well be talking about myself. Any idiot speaking in front of a camera or in this chat could have signed the players we've signed recently, besides Laumans, who you have to give credit to, the scout that pushed heavily for him, or the goalkeeper scout that pushed heavily for him. Great job by that guy. You deserve plaudits. Maybe they should promote you to head of scouting, right? But when the obvious isn't available, then where is the imagination? Where is the risk-taking? Where is the push for something to happen? Where is the creativity? Where is the millions and millions and millions of pounds being spent every single month to discover players and find good options? And it's not even like unknown options. There are players you can get in January that make an impact. Bruno Fernandes was one of them. Is there the idea that there's nobody we can get now that fits a long-term view and a short-term view? That's not acceptable. It doesn't matter. I fully buy in to the long-term view idea. I fully buy into the big plan. I fully buy into that line of thinking. Do your job. There can't only be one player that's possible. You know, there can't be. You have to do more. You have to be able to find more. Now, look, one of the links that's come up once again is Buwadi. I've been talking about Buwadi for some months now, saying that United are looking at him and he is on their list. Once again, not an exclusive, but it's been months been talking about that United are keeping an eye on that situation for January, that he's turning 18 there. Good, he's on the list. Do it. Take a risk. Palace got Wharton from Blackburn in January, from what I recall, correct? Then do it. Go back to the Championship. There's a kid named Hayden Hackney who's been on your list for a few years now that you've been watching. He's still a good player. Do it. I'm just suggesting names. It's not my job. I'm just saying do it, you know? Do something to make this happen. Do something to help get something over the line. Do something that is going to make an impact on the club. That's your job, is to pick one of these guys that you can get and that will make a difference.
Amorim has gotten dogs abuse from the English media, former United players, and he's stood firm. We have a spoiled fan base, let's be honest. Emotional.
I completely agree with you on that front, but when I look at it, then I'm going, when are the management going to help him out there? You know, he's the one taking the absolute utmost of abuse right now. He's the one suffering the most from it. He said that, and he is correct. He is the one suffering the most from it. His reputation isn't being destroyed, is the one being destroyed right now. If Wilcox were to leave United tomorrow, he would still get another job in a top level of football, because people will look at it and say there's a lot of things he's done well, and they would be correct in my opinion. And the view of him is very high across football, even if he's not, if United aren't there yet. You know, Amorim's the one that has to front it up every single day, you know, to everybody.
James, there is absolutely more players than Baleba, Anderson and Wharton, man. Get Ederson and Gomez now and sign one of the others in summer. We might need 4 midfielders in summer.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know, Buwadi will be 60 million. Gomez will cost the same. I don't care. Do it. I don't care. Do it. Spend it. And if you're saying, but again, like, you have to get the point that I'm making here, because I'm expecting a higher level of competence than what we've seen in the past. If you go and say, well, we don't think Buwadi and Gomez are worth 60 million, good. Find another option that is worth the money.
We called for Baleba, who we all knew isn't available.
EPL clubs don't need to sell in Jan. We have to wait. We don't need to be. It doesn't have to be Prem proven only. We need
EPL
4
clubs
midfielders.
Don't need to sell in Jan. We have to wait.
I agree with you in that sense, but we don't have to get Premier League players only. It's not the only thing we need. We called for available who we knew isn't available, and that's what I'm saying. Like, look. I've spoken about this. I spoke about this yesterday. I spoke about this 2 days ago, 3 days ago, 4 days ago. We have continued to check on the Carlos Baleba situation, and the feedback from Brighton has continued to be, we don't want to sell him now. Now, I would say that potentially a plan that is still in progress is to continue agitating Baleba a bit when he returns from AFCON, see if he can push a bit more and we can shift that. Could be. Brighton have brought in Pascal Gross back to the club. They're looking at some others. Could be that might be plan A. If that's plan A, it's fine. If it works, that's a big if. As far as we all know, that's a big, big if. Okay? That might be plan A, and I get that. And if it works, hats off. I'm not going to apologize because I'm not overly criticizing anything or saying anything unreasonable in this or personally attacking. I'm just saying that would be great. And so if he comes back and asks for a transfer and pushes, if he returns in 3 or 4 days, if Cameroon get knocked out and he returns and he says, guys, I need to join Mbeumo at United. I want the move now. Don't hold me back. 70 million. I need it. And then it happens. Fantastic. Good job. I'm fine with that, with getting that. But if not, you can't not do anything else. You can't not sign another player. That is an if right now. You must do something else. So, look, the reality of the situation is that United have continued checking in on a ton of players. I said this yesterday. I've said it in recent days. I'm going to continue to say it. Baleba, they keep checking in on. Gomez, they keep checking in on that situation to see if something changes with Wolves. Buwadi, somebody that we've been watching now for some time as a young player. He just turned 18. Yes, he signed a new contract. He'll still be available for about 60 million euros or something like that. They linked us to this young Greek kid that I think we've seen the name before. There's a link to someone at...
The goal was Europe irrespective of Jan signings. It was not get Europe if we get you player X in Jan. I want good players in Jan too, but let's not move the goalposts for Amorim's sake.
Who said there was no idea to get players in January? I don't think that's true. At the end of summer, I specifically myself stated that as far as I knew, January what we were supposed to send. Who said we weren't supposed to spend in January? Who said that? I don't think that that's true at all. We were supposed to spend in January. I even specifically spoke about Baleba at the end of summer and said we'll be back in January, check to see if we can sign him at that time. I don't think that that's true. I don't think it's true at all that anybody said we shouldn't get players in January. And I think the point is when you contextualize it, the goal was to get back in Europe with this team, but you still have to play the consequence. You still have to look at the context of the situation at the moment, which is that right now, we're still in European places without spending in January. But you have to bear in mind the reality of that situation once you face it. Once you face it, is that given what's happened, we're in European places and everybody's acting like it's a failure right now. But it was never qualified that we wouldn't spend anything in January. Why shouldn't we? The idea was to spend every window. The idea is to continue building the team every single window. That aspect is what we were supposed to expect. 1 sec, I want to show you something. And I'll give you some... I want to show you something on this as well. Just their own words on this, on that front. 1 sec.
Our big targets want Champions League football.
Yeah, correct. You're right on that. I'm trying to find the specific quotes on it, because Sir Jim specifically spoke about this point. I don't know if anybody can find it in terms of the quote, but I don't want to delay too long trying to find it here. Oh, you want to find some cool hypocrisy from Gary Neville while we're at it? Let's find some cool hypocrisy from Gary Neville while we're at it. All right, let's I found some great hypocrisy from Mr. Gary Neville here, given all of his recent comments. This is Gary Neville. He says, Man United boss Ruben Amorim needs 3 transfer windows to build squad for a system, says Gary Neville. This is 18 February 2025. He's had 1 since then, and Gary Neville won't shut up about his system and saying that he has to change his system. What happened to saying he needs 3 windows to build it, Gary? What happened? Flip flop. But, whatever. I'll try to find the other one still. Anyway. That's why I can't take what Gary Neville says seriously. Far too many people hang on to his words. Drives me nuts. He just changes his mind every other day in terms of how he best to get on the good side of Liverpool fans or something like that. I really want to show this because I'm saying that it's supposed to be it's 1 sec. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I'm taking a while on this, but I really want to find it. I don't know. It's what's obnoxious about that interview, which I recall before, is that nobody correctly published the actual quotes. Anyway, what Sir Jim specifically said, because I can't find it. I don't know why. Yeah. Is that they didn't publish it either. Whatever. Anyway, I'll stop stalling now. He specifically said that it's not Ruben Amorim's team, and he needs January, he needs summer to make it his team before he can be properly judged. Well, January, if you don't sign players, it's nothing more than a month in a year. You haven't made it more Ruben Amorim's team. You haven't built it more correctly. You haven't said anything as of yet. You haven't done anything. It hasn't become Amorim's team. It hasn't become more his team, and that's from the ownership. If you don't get him somebody, if you don't add somebody to it, then you haven't backed up anything that you just said in terms of making it his team. So the intention was there. This was back in October from Sir Jim to add players in January in order to make it more of his team. So that to me is just, it would be unacceptable to pass that up and not get it done, to not add to it. Otherwise, that's where I'm saying that, yeah, look, I'm just a bit frustrated at the moment on this whole situation because there's so many holes in the team. I don't even care if it's a midfielder. I don't mind who it is. I can understand, but there are strikers. We need a striker. There's a wide player. We need a wide player. There's midfielders. There's center backs. You cannot tell me in 4 positions, 5 if you count the midfield as 2, that 5 positions, there's nobody in world football right now who can fit your current needs and long-term needs. That's bullshit. That's utter incompetence to say that. That is absolutely unacceptable. That is unacceptable. That is not an answer. Because that cannot be true. That cannot be true. There are 5 positions you could be signing players in right now that we need for the long term, that are still a part of your plan. You cannot tell me that that's not the case, that there's nobody that we can get. You can't. That Semenyo was the only player in football that was obtainable. You can't. You just can't say it. Now, look, there are obviously names available, okay? There are obviously names available. They're clearly, we're checking on it. That's kind of my point, right? So this is what Sky said today. Manchester United have explored the conditions of a deal this month for Carlos Baleba. Deal not expected to happen in January, with Brighton keen to keep him until summer. United's priority is to strengthen their midfield this year, blah, 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 blah. United also looking at younger talents like Lille's Ayub Buwadi and Olympiacos' Christos Mouzakitis. And that's great. But it doesn't matter if you can't get one done. You don't get credit for looking. Looking is important. Being able to do it is important. But getting it done is more important. And this has been consistent for me. 2 months ago, I was making videos saying they cannot let January pass by. Not only is it an opportunity, but it's still a coin flip as to whether we can get into Europe or not. Here's the deal, right? And this is what I go back to, again, if you want to make comparisons to things. And you can make this about the manager. I honestly, if you just don't say the manager's name, forget who the manager is for a moment, and then just look at it from this perspective, okay? Forget the manager and look at it as Manchester United, all right? And here's where the problem lies. Manchester United are supposed to compete for Champions League and for European places with this compared to this. That's what the club is expected to do. If you are a sporting director of a football club and you are looking at your club and saying, we think we'll get Europe, we can pass the window by. When this is your options right now, and this is the competition's options right now, you're nuts. You're nuts. You're crazy. That is like an unbelievable bit of copium, okay? That's who you're competing with. That's who you're saying we have to be able to compete with that, with this, from a club perspective. Forget the manager. Any sporting director should not be able to look at that and say, yeah, we can compete. No, you can't. No, you cannot. You can't. You just can't. Look at Bournemouth's bench. Yeah, sure. Look at Bournemouth's bench. How about that? Even their bench has better players. Wolves have better players on the bench than we have right this moment. They've got injuries and suspensions too. But it's like that's who you're competing with. That's what you're competing with. So I believe that plan A is still in hopes that something will change on Baleba and Brighton, but I don't like hope. I like facts. I also think that, yes, it's January 2nd. Given the situation, given what we've been looking at, given the idea of preparing for ahead of time, here's the point, guys. I understand it's early in the window. I get it. I know that. I'm not stupid. I'm not even like, we're supposed to see better than we've seen in the past. You've had months of preparation. It's not summer. You can't wait until the end of July and say, it's okay. Doesn't make a difference. Time is of the essence. The difference between, let me show the table and just show you something, right? The difference between Champions League and no Champions League is perhaps 1 point. The difference between Europe and no Europe is perhaps 3 points. Signing Lammens too late may already be a difference maker between us getting into Champions League or not. That was a fuck up. That was a huge mistake already. Should have done it sooner. You waited way too long. Unacceptable to have even thought about bringing Onana back to this club, to be quite honest. I don't know who thought of that. Crazy. I don't know who thought that was okay after what happened. That was a mistake called out in the start of the season. I said it was unacceptable. We probably don't lose a point to Arsenal on opening day if we have Lammens instead of Bayindir. We might have 2 to 3 more points, maybe more if we had started Lammens earlier. So that already cost us points this season for no good reason at all. If we only sign someone on January 30th and we lose, what if we get knocked out by Brighton in the FA Cup next weekend? We're not going to have most of the players back that we had last time we beat Brighton. And that was our first time beating them in years. You know, what if we lose to Leeds? We could miss Europe by 3 points. And that could just simply be because we waited too long to sign someone in January. That's wholly possible. It's entirely plausible as a scenario come the end of the season. These are the things you are weighing up against. These are the things that you are gambling with every single day that passes, every game that passes with no signings. We have nobody returning for Leeds away. Nobody. We can lose. They're a lot better than Wolves. We can lose. Why? What makes our team good enough to beat Leeds right now?
Guys, don't forget it's a Dupsy year and we will not have time.
Yeah. You know, we can lose. We can lose on Sunday. We absolutely can. Do we have a better team right now with no players returning than Leeds in terms of performance this year? I don't think so. And you could say that's crazy talk and you're lowering standards and this and that. I don't agree. Leeds have held Liverpool to 2 draws in the last 6 weeks with a full strength side. Well, virtually full strength, probably more full strength because Ekitiki's been better than Isak. We have an incredibly weakened side playing them. Calvert-Lewin's better than our striker right now. Their midfield's definitely better than ours. We might be lucky that Ampadu is suspended. They have a better team than us right now. In terms of performances and form on the pitch, the players themselves, they've got a better team than us right now. We're going to lose. It's a 5:30 a.m. game for me. It's an early game. I'm convinced we're going to lose already. I don't like feeling that way, but I already think we're losing. And I look at that and I go, that's going to suck. And those points being dropped could easily be the difference maker at the end of the season. Before Bruno comes back, before Mount comes back, before Mainu comes back, before Harry comes back, before De Ligt comes back, before Mazraoui comes back, before Mbumo comes back, before Ahmad comes back, we could lose. We genuinely don't have a better squad than them at the moment. And we're doing it away at Ellen Road. Ugarte Casemiro does remain undefeated, and they do have 2 points per game. They have 4 points in 3 games. But, but that's what we're relying on. That's what we're relying on. That's not going to fill me with confidence that we can win a game against a high-energy team. So, I don't know. I'm very concerned. Yeah, look at the delta. Like I was saying with Lamens, correct. We've only had 2 losses since Lamens has come in. 2. If we'd done it earlier, we'd certainly be doing better. 24 years since they beat us. I know. I'm worried, man. I'm damn worried. Like I'm really, really worried right now. No doubt about it. But yeah, look, I'm sorry that this has been more negative than usual, but I always say what I think. I'm positive most of the time because I genuinely am a positive person, but also because I do understand the reality of the situation. You know what I mean? I do understand where we're going. I do understand what's being done. I do understand the long-term plan. And I firmly, legitimately, completely believe it when I say it, that we're on the right track. I'm not bullshitting when I say that. And so I'm also negative when I see something that is worthy of being negative for, objectively. And this right now worries me. And I said it in yesterday's video, you guys remember, at the start of the video, I said, guys, I'm worried. Because of what led to, obviously, the same thing that what Amorim's talking about. I don't hear of any deals being done. And I think that we should have deals on the way already. To me, it's not about the game to game that makes me negative or positive, right? That's not that. So I feel more negatively right now than I did after not beating Wolves, because it's not about the game to game that makes me feel good or bad. There's a long-term perspective and trends on those types of things. It's about the competence and the intention. If I feel that the intention is there and the competence is there, I can have confidence for the future. If I see what looks to me to be incompetence or a failure on the part of the people involved in running the club to make an impact, that is going to make me feel very, very negative. Because then we don't have hope for the future. I think there's been a lot of good things happening, actually, for quite a long time. Not a long time, for about a year now. That a lot of it goes under the radar. A lot of it people see in different ways. A lot of it is the necessary pain steps towards growth. This isn't one of them. Action is needed now. We could very easily end this year outside of Europe. We very much could. We have the money. to assist this team and tip the scales in our favor. Right now, I think it's 60-40 we end up in Europa League. I think but that's not a good margin. If you end up out of Europa League, that's really bad. Another year, 1 game a week. That means another year where you can't even build depth because you're going to have unhappy players on this once-a-week schedule. That makes it harder to sign players. That means you have less money. That means you have less confidence. None of that works.
Is off to push Ineos a problem?
I'm not sure. Like, I don't like to make assumptions on too many things, Jimmy, in terms of like who is to blame, because everybody rushes to blame one person or another or something like that. I'm not sure where the issue lies as of yet. I'll certainly want to find out, and I want to hear more and see what comes up. Again, it's not that it's all finished and we're screwed. It's the start of January. A lot could happen. Maybe the strategy works out. We're continuing to check on Baleba. Maybe he comes back from AFCON, pushes, we get that deal over the line. Boom. I'm very, very happy if that happens. And I think you've done brilliantly then. Okay. But if not, then someone has to be brought in. And nobody being available is not an answer. That is not an acceptable answer. There's times where it is, and there's times where it isn't. This is not one of those times, because our needs are a lot more than a little. I made a graph. I made that graph the other day, and I went.
Jim said 2 or 3 summer windows.
Correct. That was 2024. Yep, that was 2024. That's the 2028 project. But in an interview he did, I think it was with the Irish Times or Financial Times or something like that, back in October or end of September or something, when he said that Amorim will get 3 years. He specifically said we need January and summer. Specifically spoke about the next 2 windows being there. I've been making these graphs and going back further, and I went down a whole rabbit hole of like going back further and further and further to look at what's going on, to see if you can see the decline of United in general. And the point is like, this is why I'm sort of positive for the future. Let me show you this. And I've earmarked it by manager now, so you can see it. The red line is points. Now, some people can't read a graph. Shame on you if you can't. No, I'm just kidding. Some people just haven't learned or never learned to read graphs properly or understand what we're looking at here. But you can actually see, by the way, if you're looking at it, that it's been a long
not convinced by Bale, and we need available player
for United. A long downward slope for United. Each manager took over in a worse position than the prior, and it was the worst under Ten Hag. Look at this, plummeting. He should have been sacked here, just like Oli was, just like Jose was. When the decline kicks in, he was sacked a year too late. Should have been done then. But it's not just them, obviously. It's also the people above them that are doing it. So yeah, why I dislike Eric and wanted him gone? Look at this. He crashed the club to the lowest point it has ever been under him and Murtaugh, by far. Shame on him for it. So, but my point being is that the club has been going down for a long time if you actually look at it. The low points are getting lower. The high points are getting lower. And that's been happening for 10 years. Obviously, it was happening post Sir Alex. It dropped off a cliff, went up a little with Jose, but since then it's been 10 years of decline. The peaks are lower, the valleys are deeper. We've seen the first actual upturn over these last stretch in a long time. But does it continue is the question. Does it continue? That is the question. That's where we need to look at for the future. And when I'm looking at them, I'm saying you have to continue, you have to continue with it, you have to continue pushing for growth and pushing for the future. Things are going the right way, but you can't stop. You can't stop. You have to keep going the right way. That's bullshit, Paul. We played once a week under Ten Hag too because he got us knocked out of Europe for long stretches during his time as well. So no, that's bullshit too. Once a week doesn't explain everything. We had plenty of once a week stretches under Ten Hag as well. Ten Hag was the first manager we've ever had, by the way, that flipped our goal differential. Did you know that? For 18 months, he's the first manager we've ever had that put us into a negative goal differential in the league. For 18 straight months, we were at a negative goal differential. The first manager we've ever had. He should have been sacked at the start of that. It was way too late. But that's on the club, and that's on management, and that's on all of that. So it was all way, way too late. Okay. Either way, but forget managers, because people will lose their mind when you start discussing managers and can't think clearly. The club is where it is, and every manager picks up from a slightly lower point than the last guy. Then they have to bring it up, and then they go back down again as we don't build things up properly. So yeah, regardless, progress is supposed to continue, and it's not going to continue on its own, and it's not going to continue by accident. That has to keep going. That has to keep going, and they have to push it up in the right direction. They have to push it up in the right direction and get things moving forward. So, let me just end this section off with a little bit of info, because it's been almost an hour of doing this. Like I said, again, they're continuing to check in on. Baleba. They're continuing to check in on other players. They are also continuing to check in on strikers. And I do have a name, but I really do want to confirm it more before I talk about it on YouTube specifically. There's a name for a striker that we've looked at previously that's not particularly old. I don't think it's realistic to get, but I think he would actually be a perfect replacement for Xerxes. He's done a really good job, mostly playing as a sub where he plays, scoring at a really high rate per minute. I think would be kind of perfect rotation actually for Šeško. Provides something very, very different in terms of attributes. But we'll talk about that maybe after the weekend, because I just want to hear about it a little bit, find out a little bit more. But it is somebody that's been on United's radar in the past, that is a little bit more experienced, and but not old, but specifically a striker. And I just don't know if he'll be available, but they've been checking into some of those types of things as well. So we'll see. Yeah, Holland, exactly. But that's my point. It's great that they're looking into all those things. Now it's time to see action. Now it's time to get something done and over the line. I need to see some improvements in this respect. It's so funny. He could potentially partner, but yeah, certainly a bit of a different name. I think quite good in that. I actually think he'd be a really good option, but a lot of people would get really upset really fast as well for some reason. And I'm not quite sure why, but I think some people have already definitely made their mind up on this player, and some will like it. And it's not Darwin Nunez, don't worry. Don't worry. But yeah, regardless, here we are. This is where we're at today. With all the chaos at Chelsea, by the way, we certainly will be checking in on Cole Palmer's situation come summer and trying to unsettle him. No doubt about that. That's something to bear in mind. We also got further links to Jeremy Jacquet as well, which we spoke about a few months ago, and is certainly somebody that is on United's radar for center backs. But obviously, I don't think that is somebody. I don't think that that's going to be something that gets done in January either. I don't think that's somebody that's going to get started in January either. That just doesn't. I don't think we'll be getting some kind of old, like young, high potential, expensive player in January for center back. That's one of the ones that doesn't really make sense at that point in time. So, yeah. We'll see. Like I said, when I was saying the other day, I said, look, the intention is there from Ineos to sign players. They usually get something done. The money is there. I think they're going to need to give a kick in the pants to the guys on the job right now to get something over the line and make a signing. They're continuing to work on it and all of that, but I'm worried until somebody can come forward and say, hey, there's a deal here to be done. And they've actually engaged in talks and all of that. Until we reach that point, I'm worried because we're not there with anybody. So yeah, I'm concerned. I am concerned in general. Let's see. What else did I want to discuss? Yeah, again, Buwadi I think would be a really, really interesting one to do that front. Tomorrow, Sunday, the game against Leeds away, obviously early kickoff, 5:30 a.m. for me, around noon for most of you. Use the link below to come in and get your picks for the game. There's only 6 options here right now for this game. It's a tight one. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but yes, use the link below to get your picks in. Will Calvert-Lewin score a goal or give an assist? Cunha score a goal or give an assist? Tied at halftime. Šeško to score or get an assist? Under 3 goals, over 4 cards. This one feels like a good one to bet on, doesn't it? This feels like a good pick. 4 cards in the match against Leeds. There better be. If we can't get 4 cards in a match against Leeds away between the two clubs, then the rivalry is dead, isn't it? That's for sure. Yeah, I think that because of the rivalry and the history, there's probably going to be a tight game either way, and probably a bit messy. But I'm definitely quite worried about it. But yeah, use the link below to get your picks in, and obviously on Sunday when we play them, I will be here, but probably no pre-match unless I wake up really, really early. Calvert-Lewin has scored in 6 of his last 7 games, something like that. Sometimes off the bench and everything. So yeah. Ugarte, Casemiro, and Shaw yellow. They better. They better get yellows in that game. We could use some tactical fouls, not waiting until they're on the edge of our box to foul them, but tactical in terms of yellows are higher up the pitch. That might help us. I'm worried, but we certainly can't go there and get pumped. Yeah, that would be bad. Team news wise, we don't have anybody returning, it sounds like, which is getting a bit ridiculous, you know. Like I said before about this, I thought that it was Kobbie Mainoo was supposed to be out for a week. Now he's out for 2 weeks and longer, and that Bruno could even return before him. That's concerning to me. You have to wonder why rush to put a story out that you'll be back in a week when you're not. I think, unfortunately, there's just a bit too much PR continuing around Kobbie Mainoo's camp and situation when, you know, to try to present that he isn't an injury prone, but he is. He's still unavailable. So nobody is back at the moment, it sounds like. I don't know what's going on with Mason Mount. Supposed to be something small, but it seems like he's unfit. Bruno will be pushing to play, but they're not going to let him, very likely. So it doesn't sound good. De Ligt, we know he's got back issues. De Ligt and Maguire, I think, are going to be back soon. They might even be soonest, De Ligt and Maguire. Obviously, Mount and all of that. But De Ligt and Maguire could be back soon. From what I know, they should be back fairly soon. So, yeah. But still, it's concerning. So our options for the squad that we're going to vote on here for a moment are slim to none in any sense. They're really, really bad. I think that our only real choices come to the back line in terms of which 3 center backs that are going to play in whatever position. I guess it could be 2, but we don't have midfielders. I don't even know how I'm going to put the vote here, but what do you guys think? Should we vote for 3 CBs plus Dallo, and maybe we're going to have to do a bit of a different vote for this one. I'm trying to think how we'll even put this team together. Should we be fuck. In a 4-3-3. Okay. Should we be for this game? I honestly don't think this makes a fucking difference, to be quite honest. But let's look at it in terms of the squad. Let's start with that. Who do we want to vote for? You could say 4-4-2 in the above as well. I don't really care. I think it makes fuck all difference. Stack the middle. Probably for this game, but 3-4-3 with Dorgu on the right, Dallo on the left. Yeah, that's what I would do, because we don't have 3 midfielders. Yeah, my problem with the 4-4-2 is fine, because then it's not 3 midfielders.
No singings equals no CL and L at risk. This rebuild is slow and pressure will be unbearable for the manager and the players. Yeah. Disappointed face emoji.
Yeah, that's my concern, is it's going to add excess and undue pressure onto them. And that only makes it difficult. They're already somewhat soft. Every time we have an opportunity to get into top 5, they can't turn up. I think that's a real worry. All right, so you guys want to see it in a 4-back for the vote today, at least some people. I don't think it makes too much of a difference, obviously, but let's look at it like, I don't know, maybe like, I'm going to put it in a 4-4-2, but like, it's just, this is hard. This is hard to put. Like, I don't even know how to set this vote up given the situation, because we're gonna be playing players out of position, right? Like, I'm just gonna put who's obviously, like, let's put who's obviously gonna play, but like, it could be like this. All right, we're gonna do it in some specific ways. I'm gonna give you guys 3 options, okay, for a few things. Right wing, 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3. Right mid, 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2. Like, which would be a better? Because I think a lot of it depends on what we do with the fullbacks. Let's do it like this. This is confusing, but I'm trying to figure out how we can even figure this out. Like, where should he play? On the right, I think most people can agree. All right, well, let's put the players in, and maybe then we'll decide the position, because this is like one of the most important things, okay? So if he's here, that means Dallo is here, and he's on the right. That means Shaw is here if we're playing a 3. So, let's give another option for like a forward. Forward slash 10/CM? Is it going to be like we have so few options? So we see like a Lacey, Xerxes, or C Fletcher again. Something like this. Let's try this. See if we can figure out what the hell team we want. And we'll change the shape based on whoever is voted for. Like, who should be playing? Shea Lacey. What shape has... How can we play a 4 at the back with Lacey and Dorgu? What is that? Lacey's not a left-sided player. He's absolutely... Playing him on the left would be silly. He's not a left-sided player. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Xerxes and Sheshko as a 2-man up front, but in a 4-4-2 makes the most. How do we play a 4 at the back with Lacey and Dorgu on the right? Like, this is why... All right, this is a demonstration. This is a demonstration in the problem we have. This is a demonstration in the problem that we have right now with what people want to see. I do what I want on FIFA. Fair enough.
Xerxes and Seska combined in a proper Barclays 4-4-2 will have our attack moving about as fast as the trees from Lord of the Rings.
I like that. Okay, maybe like this. Maybe like this is what is the best bet. Maybe this is the best way to line this up. I think it would be better switching this to a 5, by the way, and going like that. We'll do it at the end. We'll do it at the end. I think we'll get the players on the pitch, and we'll do it at the end. I think we'll do it at the end. All right, let's look at our center backs. Should it be Lissandro, Heaven, Euro? Lissandro, Euro. Do that. I would not play Lissandro. He doesn't have. He's clearly not fit enough. Doesn't have. I would not play Lissandro against Leeds right now. That's my biggest concern. I don't think he's got the fitness to be able to play 3 games in a row like this. In that level of intensity, he was so slow against Wolves. It was one of the biggest problems we had in the build-up. I think that Euro needs to play because he's more aggressive. Hey, Roman. Hope you're all right. I think this is a game for Euro and Heaven to be aggressive. Especially you look at the height. The DCL in there against him. Worst. That's one of the worst matchups.
Put the 63-year veteran goalkeeping coach on the LW. Rumors he is best than Rashi. Face with peeking eye emoji.
I also think that having 3 lefties in the back was so bad against Wolves. I think it was one of our biggest problems in that game was that we had 3 lefties on there. We could not move the ball quickly because they never had the right angles to turn. I think we really need a right footer on the right. I think we really, really need a right footer on the right. If it was me, I would still go to a 3-back and do this. If we were going to play this lineup, I would do this. Play 3-4-3. Like this. I think this is the best way to utilize these players. By far. The best way to utilize these 5 players. These players that you guys have voted on. But, that's up to you. All right, formation then. I'll do a new formation at the end. With the players that you've selected, 3-4-3, 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1. Let me show you the options, all right? 3-4-3 would be either like this or like this, okay? A 4-4-2 would be... Look at me, dude. Would be something like this. to reduce the defensive burden for Shea Lacey. A 4-2-3-1 would be like this.
Martinez and Heaven. Don't care about the two left feet, but I agree he might not be fit enough yet.
All right, which formation would you guys like to see it in? Which formation is better to you? The 4-2-3 for the team you've selected. The 4-2-3-1, the 4-4-2, or the 3-4-3. Which one's better? Thanks, Emerald. Appreciate it. It's always fine to disagree. But thank you for the nice message. I'll put my glasses on. Lacey looks like Ozil. Horrible team. That's what we got. Even just Mount in here would make this look so much better, wouldn't it? Just because from experience standpoint, then you go, all right, hold on a second. Scary. And that's not hating on Lacey. It's just the reality of kids without experience, you know? All right, so now we've gone to the 3-4-3. So amusingly, right? People wanted a 4, then they picked their players and said, you know what? It makes more sense as a 3. I bet you that Amorim does that every single week. I think Amorim does that every single week. I think he probably looks at it and goes, here's the players I'd like to play. This should be a 3 at the back. We're screwed if that's 51/49. Yeah, but you guys can't agree on which 4 at the back. But it was close, to be fair. It was close. How about Martinez and DM? So you want Ugarte to be a forward? Or Casemiro to be off the pitch? That's an idea. Or Casemiro to be at center back. Or Lenny Oro to be in. Or Casemiro. Like this? With Lenny Oro? Do you like that? Like this? This could work. It doesn't exactly have improved mobility, but it has more press resistance in the middle. This could work. I'm not opposed to that. Maybe it has a little bit more press resistance in the midfield with Lissandro there, because he can dribble out of pressure. I wouldn't be opposed to this idea. I think that's all right. Does the square passing in the middle? Yeah. We need Heaven for Calvert-Lewin's aerials. Yeah, I'm a bit worried, but look, I don't know. I look at this and I'm just like, this would look more like Aston Villa, right? It would look a lot more like the Aston Villa lineup. Once Bruno came off, which did all right, didn't it? How did we look against Aston Villa in the second half? I'm trying to remember. Because that would be, to me, what we need to try to recreate to a degree. Like, once we made subs, what did it look like? It was Lacey. It was most, just in halftime even, is all I'm trying to think. Lissandro in the middle, Sheshko. Yeah, it was kind of like that. It did have Dorgu on the left, but this is kind of like the Aston Villa lineup, no? If I'm not crazy. We still had Mount, yeah. But it's kind of what Aston Villa looked like. Future looks good in DM with Villa. There's another option. There's one more option. I don't think in a back four you would put them on the opposite sides like that. What do you guys think? Just go with like a bully midfield. Just full-on three-man bully midfield. It would be ugly, I think, but like maybe Martinez can anchor it. You have pressing, you have some aerials. I don't know. This could work. Then you have Martinez anchoring it. This could work. This could work. That's not a bad idea. This could work. There. And then that's even better, in my opinion, to compete in this game. You get pace down here with Dorgu. You get a solid center of the pitch, and you still have 3 center backs. I think the other one maybe looks a little prettier, but this would be more effective. Because then you could put Dorgu on the right. Cunha and Šeško up top. That might help Šeško play off of it, off Cunha kind of well. I think this could work better. This would probably be my choice, okay? This would probably be my choice for the lineup if I had to choose, now that I think about it. This would probably be what I would choose if I had a choice here. I know it's defensive, but what other choice do we have? At least we have a competent center of the pitch, and then you get some pace on the wide areas via Dorgu and Dalot. And I think Cunha and Šeško playing closer together might help both of them. You reduce some of the gaps and things like that. So maybe a 3-5-2 for this game would be solid. I could see this working. You have a lot of good angles. It's got a few, the gaps will be a bit smaller. And then you're not throwing the kids in against Leeds. You know what I mean? And then that you can bring them on as subs. And Šeško played 2 up top a lot. Yeah, he's more comfortable in a 2 up top. Yeah. Nice. Good idea. This could work. You can also lump it to Šeško then. You know? You can also go long ball to Šeško. Knock it down. Win the second balls to get out of the press, because you'll have 3 midfielders and Cunha next to him. That might be the best way to play out of the press. Šeško needs to step up in the second half of the season. Even Dorgu's showing improvements. James, do you have any idea why De Ligt and Maguire takes long? I believe De Ligt has sort of that stress fracture issue that Højlund had, you know? That's what it sounds like anyway. And that can be... that's why the specialist and stuff is like, if it hurts, you can't play. And Maguire's just Maguire, man. He's just got muscle. He's just old. I say that as an older person. Relatively old. Those muscle injuries take a while to come back from, and he's a big dude. But yeah, this might be the best way to play out of the pressure. You're getting a player around Šeško, you lump it up there, you win the second balls by crowding the middle like this, and then you can force it out wide to your wingbacks. And that's how we can beat the press, kind of like Liverpool. That's how we can beat the press. And that gives us the best chance to win the ball in the center of the pitch. And not have to be struggling with their press. Yeah, it might be decent. I would take this. I think this could work. This would be my lineup. So anyway, I don't know. I screwed with your guys' lineup. Originally, I went with this. But since we've been talking, now I'm thinking. I mean, which is basically the same. It's just technically you could go like this. And it would be the same 3-5-2. But I think maybe Lissandro for
Euro
Lacey.
can't defend wide. It is his.
Euro can't defend wide is his weak. I don't think that's necessarily true. I just think that I don't know. I think his box defending is his weakness, not his wide defending. Like when the players get around the box, he gets ultra nervous. So yeah, he gets ultra nervous and starts to back off and make mistakes. I think the higher up the pitch he is, the better, which is why we need to be more aggressive. I think his main he's good running backwards. He's good in spaces defending. He's good in the channels even running. He's got good pace and things like that, but his box defending is poor. When we start settling in, he struggles. Like if we're getting pushed backwards, he struggles. He struggles with it in the air, things like that. But that's the same before. Yeah, without the 3-5-2, we have to start either Xerxes or an academy player. Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to do that. So that's why I'm kind of into, I think it would be best to not have to start with that. And again, just bypassing the press, putting more players around Šeško, putting more players around it. So Lamens can go long into him and we can win the knockdowns. With Ugarte, Casemiro, Martinez, they're good aerial presences, good ball reading, picking it up. Cunha play off of him and then get those pace down the widers with the fullbacks. I think this is the best bet. I hope Amorim's listening. Just kidding. I don't care what the fuck they do. All right. Cool, man. Well, that's it. That's what we got to deal with. So hopefully I'll be back tomorrow, obviously, and then we'll be there on Sunday for the game. But as a reminder, use the link below to come and join, play the game, get your picks in, all of that. Hopefully it wasn't too depressing in the first hour. I wasn't sitting there saying that and going through that to try to make people feel bad. I'm saying that as a fan, as somebody looking at the club, as someone covering the club, certain things are not going to me, be acceptable from looking in. I'm not saying we won't sign anybody. I still have a feeling we will because I still believe in the intention to do so from the ownership and all of that. And the money is there. So I think push comes to shove, we'll get something done. But I'm worried about right now, it wouldn't be acceptable to not get something done. And the excuses offered to me don't carry enough validity. We hired and rebuilt a team in this football club, which is why I'm not turning instantly to the owners. They put forward good people who have experience, like Vavel and such, in these positions to fix recruitment. They put forward data people. They've hired competent individuals and have given them the tools and the money to do something. They need to do something now. That's it. They need to show us something beyond the obvious. They need to show us something when it's difficult, either getting a difficult deal like Baleba over the line or finding an alternative if that isn't possible. That has got to happen. To anything else to me would be, what's the difference between this team that is working right now on transfers and the one under the Glazers? What's the difference? There's none. The obvious was always possible. It's when it's difficult, can you pull it off? Not no value in the market, not, oh, sorry, Jose, there's nobody, it's too expensive. They need to show that they're better because we're competing with better teams, we're competing with better recruitment people, we're competing with better clubs, and we're going to fall behind. We need to show that ambition is important. It's proper planning is not just enough. Long-term is not just enough. There needs to be intent and ambition and aggressiveness, and it'll back the team. It'll energize the fans. It'll energize the players. It'll energize the manager. It'll energize the club. And that matters too. The mental aspect of what it does matters too. You can't forget about that. Okay? I'll see you all later. Thanks for watching. I appreciate all of you very, very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll catch you later. Make sure to like the video, subscribe. See ya. Goodbye.